can hear that I spoke fondly of my own teachers. I'm sure for many Josephians, they look back. I mean, they were probably punished, but they will look back and they probably appreciate, the tough love, lah, right? The tough love. Well, you talk about double life, so it's like, in the daytime I'm Bruce Wayne and at night I'm Batman. It's fun. And maybe band boys get the chicks. I don't know. Writers don't. Writers are bloody nerds. I think rock and roll run through the halls of SGI.
Welcome again to No Ordinary Joe, a podcast that uncovers the less than ordinary lives of ex-Josephians shaping our world today. Hi, I'm Jason Chen, Class of 98, your host. Our guest today is a historian, educator, writer, and fellow Josephian from the Class of 88. He has been a leading voice in popular culture and visual arts with a specialized focus on Southeast Asian comics and woodcuts. Currently, he's the country editor for the International Journal of Comic Art, and more recently, well, not so recent, I would say, a senior contributor to the Big O magazine. His obsession with pop culture actually began within the historical walls of SGI Bras Basah. He's none other than Lim Ching-ju, better known as CT Lim. Today, he joins us to share his unique perspective on how Singapore's cultural landscape has evolved over the decades. But first, a message from Simon Seow, president of the SGI Old Boys Association.
Dear Josephians and friends, hello. You can find another side of me in t-shirts and shorts digging into my favorite nasi lemak. How about you? Can you believe we are already in the middle of our series? In this fourth episode of No Ordinary Joe, a podcast brought to you by the SGI OBA, we look at the world from a different point of view. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. If you are a regular, nice to see you again. Remember, if you have a story worth sharing, please reach out to the SGI OBA Secretariat at 8628-9678. Now, as always, let us remember that we are in the holy presence of God. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. I will continue, O my God, to do all my actions for the love of you. Saint Joseph, pray for us. Saint John Baptist de La Salle, pray for us. Live Jesus in our hearts forever. Jason, over to you.
CT, it's great to have you here. Most people actually know you as a serious educator. You have even ventured across the pond to lecture at Raffles Junior College. So, very fascinating, you actually have a double life, right? A journey into the world of alternative media actually started right here at SGI when you began writing for the local fanzine Big Go. Right, to be honest, I really like you to introduce Big Go. Right, I have not heard of it and would love to know more. Right, take us back to those days. Right, what sparked that indie spirit in you? What was the world of alternative media like back then?
Well, you talk about double life, so it's like, in the daytime I'm Bruce Wayne and at night I'm Batman, right? So, I mean, of course, back then we were all students. We were supposed to be studious, pray and work. But actually, at home we are all di xiao xiao, play records, read comics, watch never mind, watch videotapes. So my interest has always been writing, while other friends would they'd be in bands and all that. So I like to observe the scene. So I started as a reader of Big O. Big O stands for Before I Get Old. They were inspired by this line from The Who, My Generation, the song Hope I Die Before I Get Old. All right. Of course, Big O also means something else, the big orgasm. But they started, actually, okay, the history of it is that there were a bunch of journalists who were with the Singapore Monitor, and you have to put your mind all the way back, all right, where in the 80s there were actually more newspapers other than the Straits Times, all right? There were a New Nation, and after that it became the Singapore Monitor, and the Sunday edition of the Singapore Monitor had great pop culture coverage. Again, movies, comics, the first comics column in Singapore, music, of course, and then when the Singapore Monitor folded in 1985, the editors, the writers all came together and said, okay, we're going to start our own pop culture magazine. I think they were inspired by the Rolling Stones, right, the magazine. And so they did Big O. And again, the idea that, you do something before it's too late. Hope I die before I get old, right? And, they want to do this. And it started off really as just a fanzine, photocopy, all right? It was selling for $2.50. It was selling at record shops at the Attic. I think back then it was still somewhere in Orchard Road. in comic shops. And I was reading Singapore Monitor. I transit. In fact, I got my father to purposely subscribe to the Singapore Monitor on Sunday, just the Sunday edition, so I can read that. And then when I heard that Big O became a fanzine, I sought it out. I bought it. I then I was a subscriber. Then I decided to. I wrote letters to them. All right, so I was a fanboy. I was a letter writer. Then after that, I started contributing, writing reviews for music, movies, comics. Yeah.
So this was really much your YOLO moment back then. In the 80s, you only live once. You decided to just contribute to the alternative art scene in Singapore. All right, so tell us more, Mil. How else were you involved in the Singapore alternative scene?
Okay, I think in the first place, none of us, all in hindsight, right? It's all 2020. We didn't think that we were doing anything great, right? I mean, guys who form bands just form bands because it's fun. And maybe band boys get the chicks. I don't know. Writers don't. Writers are bloody nerds, right? Just like Lester Bangs in Almost Famous. But we do what we like. So indie, yes, because we are writing. I was writing. I mean, we are all writing for no money, right? It's all free. Sometimes the editors will pass us cassettes, vinyls, CDs to review. Sometimes we buy our own because we just want to champion this band that we heard. We sort out local bands like Opposition Party. The T-shirt I'm wearing now. So I suppose there is mainstream culture, all right, but I think. The underground is always very attractive, right? Forbidden Fruit and all that. You are in SGI, you will know that.
Yes.
You'll know all about that.
And I'm sure the ladies loved you as well.
Oh, no.
So more secrets to that. You can see the little sparkle in his eye when you said that. But I mean, starting at fanzine in the 80s must have been tough. You talk about photocopying, right? I mean, it wasn't like how the youth of today is starting something that they're very passionate about, starting a blog, right? Going on a TikTok video. Right, so tell us more. How was it, the challenges you face, and how would you have done it differently today, given today's resources?
Actually, I started my own fanzine much later on when I was in post-secondary. But when I was in SGI and I started writing for Big O at the end of 87, I was Sec 3. But of course, Big O was a fanzine, so I hung out in their office. I go for the so-called monthly meetings. Yeah, actually, it's like a cell group. Yeah, it's probably like a cell group. But anyway, and the gospel is rock and roll.
That's the best.
Yeah, and Jesus is the King of Kings, right? But Elvis is the King of rock and roll, right?
There we go.
So I'll see them, do their stuff. They sort of use. Actually, in fact, they adopt computer quite early, but it's the same concept of cut and paste, putting news together, taking news from elsewhere. So the early issues of Big O, they were sort of course, without license, right? They find a very interesting article that is not widely read here. It could be some magazine that's not even available here. It could be something political about some international situation, all right? And they either retype it or they literally cut and paste. All right, but I think it's probably retyped, right? I think they're a bit more professional than that. So it's really about transmitting news that is not easily found. All right, and I suppose in today's age, we are spoiled for choice, right? On your handphone, you can get all sorts of news, right? So I think what I miss about Big O back then, or even doing your own stuff, is that at least it's a focal point. I think right now it's sort of all over the place. I suppose everyone has an opinion, but you get lost. You get lost in a sea of opinions, I suppose. Nonetheless, that opinion is important. Yeah.
And you mentioned SGI, right? You were a participant of the Big O culture, right? As a student of SGI. I mean, back in SGI, during my days, right? We were known for discipline, the brothers. Right? So was it very much an underground experience for you, right? Or were you alone, or was there a huge following of other fellow students, right, who follow your lead and also, were attracted to this underground culture?
I think basically we just all influence each other. Like it's never mono directional. It's always bi-directional and all over the place. Right. I remember I got a classmate, Tek Yen. All right, hello Tek Yen. He brought to school a tape, and it's The Cure. I think it's a singles compilation of The Cure. He brought to school Depeche Mode, and then we would just pass around and we just share. And so one source is Big O, and Big O is great for the 60s, 70s. They have a great record collection, and the guys like Philip Chia, Michael Chia, Stephen Tan, I think they are at least 10 or 15 years older than us. All right. So, but you get influence from your peers as well. And again, I don't see, I think we are just, none of us is like a leader. All right. I think, but all of us are leaders. All right. All of us share, all of us inspire each others in our antics. And really, we were a few antics back then. Yeah, actually, you could see, I think of those days fondly.
I think of my days fondly as well. I mean, you were sharing cassette tapes. Ours were sharing VCDs.
And actually, you never outgrow them. So I do a show and tell.
Yeah, please.
Right? Although this is not available for those listening in. So I got a cassette player here.
Wow.
And
for those of you who do not know, especially the young
still have
ones,
cassettes.
Right? This is a device that really brings back fond memories for many of us, right? And this and cassette tapes that brought us through, right, some of our heartbreaks, some of our darkest moments, right, and brought us great joys.
Yeah, and cassettes are not the best format lah. It's high hiss, lo-fi, but it's very fun lah. And
but it gave music life. It really gave music life. And it gave
yeah.
everybody a chance to appreciate the life that you just described.
And it also goes to show we all started, not very rich, right? We're going to afford cassettes, and then gradually vinyls. And okay, CDs I think is a bit later. Vinyls are actually more popular format. In 85, 86, I think CD was still not that popularized. But, it's great for sharing. It's great for lending to friends. And it's also great to check out local bands. Local bands only have local demos.
And you can easily make copies of this as well.
Yeah. Piracy is a great thing. That's how ideas are spread.
So, I mean, with all this sharing culture, in SGI, would you say that, the SGI spirit helped plant the seeds of what you call the alternative counterculture path that you took? Right? Looking back, who was CT Lim as a student? Can you, paint a picture of your experience back at SGI?
I suppose I always come across a bit serious, maybe studious. Actually, I'm not sure.
With Depeche Mode and rock and roll.
Yeah. But sometimes our self-perception and how the others perceive us is always disjoint, right? But I suppose the fact that I chose the pen as my weapon of choice, right, to express myself. All right. I mean, other people might draw, other people might sing, could be in a choir, of course, in a band. I did try playing bass, not very successful. That's why it's only 4 strings. I didn't even bother with 6 strings. So I suppose the writing part is an analytical part, right? You analyze, do I like this album? Do I like this artist? What is it he or she is trying to say? What's the band's trying to say? How does it compare with the previous album? How does it compare against the whole genre of, I don't know, rockabilly or punk or new wave? And you make an assessment, right? So how I came across is probably a bit nerdy.
So I'm imagining a nerdy CT Lim, right, who loves rock and roll, right? Being I would say, studious student. Right. So did any of the teachers vibe with you? Did they encourage your underground activities?
The answer is no. But there's certain advantage, right? Because it's all about general knowledge. I remember, I think I was in Sec 2, and then I think Francis Thompson came to class, and I think he took us for English or something, or it was a relief anyway. And then there's an article about popular music from the 60s. There's a picture of the Beatles. Then he said, can anyone name the members of the Beatles? And I was the only one who could do it. So there's some advantages. But I think actually, I think SGI is filled with. I think rock and roll run through the halls of SGI. I mean, I talk about the editors of Big O, right? Michael and Philip Chia, they're from SGI.
Yep.
And of course, Dick Lee was from SGI. Chris was from SGI. So actually, many of them went into the music industry.
So it sounded like SGI harvested a very strong indie spirit back in the days.
Okay, I suppose it's all about some sort of dialectics, right? It's action reaction, right? Again, of course, it's not to say that we were oppressed or suppressed, and I mean, of course, like any schools or most schools back then, it's highly disciplined, right? Corporal punishment was still around. You cross the line, you do anything, expect to get whacked, but I mean, we all survive. But I think when you have that, then sometimes you push back, right? You push back. You find your own way of resistance, and it come in different forms, right? It comes in different forms. So I think rock and roll is
music was a channel for expression.
Yeah, yeah, like reading comics under the table, or maybe is it Playboy? I don't know. Yeah, yeah.
So was this reading comics during Chinese class?
Yeah, actually, even if you read Chinese comics, they don't like it because it's bad shit. Yeah.
So were there some special moments of SGI that really that you recall that really kept you going over the years? Maybe you could share some of those.
I think because I also went in education, and I think I also learned many lessons. Learn many lessons from my teachers, I think. And I think nothing earth shaking, but looking at it now, it sort of makes sense, and it's really quite smart of that guy. I think it's a literature teacher, and I think it's either Sec 2 or Sec 3. It could be Sec 3. All right, so we are studying Julius Caesar, all right, and a test is coming out, and of course, none of us will study for it, right? Especially when you say, the whole play, we're going to test you the whole play. They don't do that, right?
Yeah.
When they say they'll test the whole play, which means they have not set the paper yet. That's what it means. Okay, that's why they said we'll test the whole play. And then now I know, but anyway. So I mean, if you say you didn't study the whole play, I think none of us will bother except for one or two right? So this teacher came to the class and said, "Okay, boys, close the door, close all the window." Shh. Then silence, right? Then he just wrote on the board, Act 2, Scene 3. Okay. Then he rubbed it off. Then, of course, we all know right? Act 2, Scene 3 is coming out. So, of course, you could say that's like some, okay, not to say cheating, but you give tips, right? You give tips. But the effect of that, what do you think is the effect of that?
Well, it showed a certain level of mentorship, concern, guidance, right, to help you as a student.
Scale down. Focus.
Yeah.
Simpler, which means what will we do when we see that?
Just study and
just study.
Rather than study everything, or not study, you actually study.
Yes. Act 3, Scene 2. Because if nothing else, all of us will read Act 3, Scene 2. When if he doesn't even do that, we will not even read the book, right? So at least we learn something. So I thought it's perhaps unorthodox, but it works, right? I mean, it's all about small steps, right? I mean, stairway to heaven, is it? Right, it all take the first step, right? Yeah, if I tell you need to run a marathon tomorrow, you just give up, you just turn around and walk away, right? But you say, okay, let's start with 100 meters, okay. Let's start with 150 meters, 200 meters. I think that's how you motivate a child. And I thought that works. Yeah.
So with that little tip, everyone studied, everyone did well, and it propagated to better results after that.
Okay, I'm not sure whether everyone get
but for yourself,
yeah. But it's a step. It's a step. It's a first step, and that's very important. Yeah.
Did that help mold your position as an educator as well?
Well, I suppose again, all these cliches, right? Begin and end in mind. Taking that first step. Small success, think big, start small. Actually, it all encapsulate in that one, right? Right? It's just really, some of us are. I mean, again, there's so many circumstances, right? About all this talk about student well-being, where students, they are very down, they can't get out of the house and can't get out of bed, right? Those are very, very serious issues, but it's really taking that first step, and maybe someone to understand that actually you don't have to change yourself overnight, but taking that first step, even getting up, brushing your teeth, yeah, it
So it's about
leads to
celebrating
something.
that small wins that
Yeah,
really make a
that's
difference
right.
for all of us.
That's right. Yeah.
And we had that, we had that little practice of just appreciating the motto that we sang the school right every day, right? Ora et labora, right? Something that regardless of age or time, right? It's a motto that will stay with us for the rest of our lives. So how has our school motto Ora et labora, right, impacted you through the ages?
Okay, just check. Let's work and pray, right?
Yes, let's work and pray. Nothing has changed, right? We still pray and work.
Okay. No, I mean, I'm not a Christian or Catholic. But my father was an war orphan. All right. So I was just reflecting that if things were different, I wouldn't be sitting here, because he was brought up by my great grandmother. Of course, typical poor Chinese family. They were living in Tanglin Hawk. Of course, you're just surrounded by your neighbors, right? And he could easily have gone to any of the Chinese schools, right? I mean, I was just thinking if my father had gone to, I don't know, Chinese High, Zhongqing, and maybe he will get arrested and thrown in jail for all those protests, then maybe I won't be here. But I think it's probably some neighbor, I don't know, I can't remember, that probably told my great grandmother that why don't you send the boy to SGI, right? It's a good environment, run by the brothers, values, and I think they also offer like bursaries. So my dad did well enough, to get bursaries. I think that's a big motivating factor, right? When you're poor and don't really have much for school fees and all that. So I think he always appreciate the education he received. So when I came along, he sent me back there, and back then, none of this ranking or elite schools are right. Right? We go to a place because friends recommend.
Yep.
Our friends went there, our parents went there, so I was there. So getting to your question, I think the hard work part will always be there, right? I mean, we play hard and we work hard. But even if you are a non-believer, I think the morality and the values will always be there. And agree certain things, how we look at the world, how we do certain things, fair play, for example, treat others right, don't overdo things, don't be too much, right? My gui hun, right? Yeah. Just
And becoming
try to
meant
be-
for others,
just
something that
meant
was
for others.
with us.
Yes, just meant for others, and just be decent, be decent. Yeah.
So it sounds like you have gone through years of transformation, growth. So who's the CT Lim today? Right, what ex-Joe, and how will you describe yourself today?
Probably more jaded, cynical, weary, but still a fan of rock and roll. No, I mean, we all grow. We all accept certain realities. We all have to, do trade-offs, right? That's a favorite word these days for many, many years. But I always believe that our time in this world is limited, so we shouldn't spend all our time, pleasing other people, all right, and we should spend time with our loved ones and for ourselves. So again, I put it in very simple terms, right? It is a physical thing.
Yes.
Physical thing meaning that when you're older, you can, I love reading. So I can still read. I think I probably hopefully in my 60s, 70s, 80s, right? Let's say. And if I have glaucoma, cataract, I just brought my father to the Singapore National Eye Center, right? He had to do a day off, and maybe I'll end up in the same situation 20 years later. So some things you can do. Listening to music, you can do at home. I mean, unless you go deaf, right? So I'm trying to make sure I doesn't happen to me. But attending concerts and gigs, now that is an effort.
Okay.
Right, because yeah, of course, when you're young, in your 20s, 30s, not issue. Just standing. I just went to Rock in Solo, which is in Solo, Central Java. It's a 2-day rock concert. So you have metal bands and all that. 2 days straight of standing, about, let's say, 6 hours to 8 hours. It was raining, it was muddy. But the third day, I had backache. I had to take Panadol.
The realities of age.
You know, your knee pain, and of course, you know, some of our friends will continue to play soccer, right? Regardless, but yeah, lah, it's up to a certain extent, lah. So whatever you enjoy doing, again, it's not a big secret or a big statement, right? Whatever you enjoy doing, just do it now. Cycling, for example, yeah, you know.
But it sounds like there's a life lesson somewhere in there, right? So any lessons you had from your youths that you take to your adulthood right now? Any special memories that you can share?
I suppose not to take life too seriously, lah. It's always good to. Okay, I think it's actually quite hard, right? I mean, I keep saying it. I tell friends, right? But at the end of the day, we do take things very seriously, lah. We are very serious people, and maybe that's how it is. It could be character. Some people are more happy-go-lucky, but most of us are very serious, right? I mean, about our careers and about lives and all that, or study. But I think it's always good to laugh and crack jokes. And I use the word 李小小. I think that's a great phrase. Okay, so I'll tell this story. So the same teacher, all right, the same literature teacher. So you could see that he's quite well remembered and well loved by us.
Mr. Act 2 Scene 3?
Yeah. So, all right, he's a smoker. Actually, back then, can smoke one. Actually, now also can smoke. Just don't vape. Right? So don't vape. Don't vape. Okay, smoke, I think maybe, okay, up to you.
It's CT Slim's, the educator speaking.
Oh, no. No. Stay clean. Okay, so back then, you know, teachers can smoke. Or actually, it's not so strict. So he always walk around, I think, with, I don't know, Marlboro or what. You can see it in the pocket, right?
The red packet, right?
Yeah, the red
packet. The signature red packet.
Yeah. So come Teachers Day, okay.
Wow.
Okay,
so I can see where this is going.
Yeah, where is it going, right? Wow, hey, sir, we got present for you. Wow. You know, so it's a poster. Okay, hey.
I'm trying to imagine what poster.
Yeah, so what do you think it say? Huh?
Please stop smoking.
Okay, it's smoke kill. Okay, so it's like this guy smoking, and then from the smoke comes out this guy. So it's like a genie, all right, or some, and this guy got an axe, right, and saying smoke kills, and it's got to chop off the guy, like, okay, you know, okay, thanks, you all care for me. Okay, smoke kills, don't smoke. Hey, sir, second present. It's a carton of Marlboro.
Very SGI.
Yes.
And were you the cartoonist who drew that poster?
No. It's a class effort. It's one of those standard posters you can buy from outside. None of us drew it. Yeah.
No, but it's nice to have a teacher who actually resonates so well with us. Someone who actually cared and made the smaller efforts to help just be a better student. But let's go back to your days in Big O. I mean, that's quite an iconic moment in your life. You were a student, right? You were writing for a major magazine back then. In fact, you were a senior contributor, right? And well, for those of us who just do a quick recap, Big O stood for Before I Get Old. And from there, you became an author and a leading voice for the regional cartoonists. So your influence has really grown over the decades and became a major influence in the lives of others. So let's take us back to the beginning. So how did your journey at Big O start? You mentioned earlier that you were actually a volunteer writer. You wrote in, you were a fanboy. So tell us more about that. How did it really start and it became such a big influence in your life?
So basically it is about the music, right? I mean, you enjoy the music, and unlike these days where the internet, you can Spotify everything, YouTube everything. Back then it's quite difficult. So you know, you read a review in Big O, you try to look for it at, I think, Supreme, Sing Records, you know, those places, and not no, not Sembawang yet. Sembawang is only much later.
So this is before HMV, right?
Yes, way before, way before. That's why Supreme Valentine was around.
Yes.
So those places, and actually back then it's quite easy to find a record shop. It's, music shops are quite common throughout line up Orchard Road. So you read the review, you went to buy, and then you buy the cassette because vinyl is too expensive. Or no, better still, you go to Chinatown and you buy a $2 cassette. Which is a pirated cassette. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's what I did. Now I remember. So you listen to it, you have a response to it. Then you figured, if other people can write, can share, then I think my opinion is as valid as any others are. So I think again is this idea of student voice, right, which is very important. To me these days, all right, agency voice. So you contribute. So I started writing letters, all right, to sort of say, I enjoy your magazine, but I agree with this. I didn't agree with this. By the way, I think this is a great band. Could you interview them or whatever? So you started giving opinions, all right, giving suggestions. Then they contact you, or you actually buy a new album which they have yet to review. All right, so then you say, hey, I got this thing, and I wrote this review. We like to run it, so that's how it starts. So I think a lot of it is all about agency. A lot of it is DIY, do it yourself. You don't wait for others to give you permission to say, okay, you can write for us now. All right, but you just go ahead and do it, and the most people say no to you.
No, but in that, it's a very important life lesson because today, in this new generation, everyone is just waiting for the opportunity for others to empower them rather than them being self-empowered. Because for what you just described, there was no one that gave you an opportunity on silver platter. You actually created your opportunity. Just by sheer passion, just by sheer curiosity, right? You picked up the album, you wrote in, you gave your opinion, and through that, you actually gave yourself the opportunity, and you grew from that. That's incredible. Right?
Now, I wouldn't say that current generation doesn't have that, right? I mean, I'm sure they have their own challenges, and in fact, I feel that if I'm in teaching and education, right, I should be optimistic. I should think, that I cannot keep go around saying, oh, my time better, right? Last time better. My time is the golden age. No, then then why are you in education, right? Because everything is going downhill. So I also choose to see that every generation has its merits. I think current generation, of course, has some flaws, but I think they have their good bunch as well. They have their people, their own group that do their own things and all that. Yeah.
So it's a different kind of pop culture.
Yeah.
But maybe to the younger generation, the younger listeners today, how would you describe the energy of the office? It's all about indie, it's all about rock and roll. How would you describe the energy of the office back then?
I think there is a diversity of views, voices. There's no one way is the right way. Of course, so you end up in all this nerdy geek argument, right? What's the best album in the history of rock and roll? Then someone will always say, Sgt. Pepper, number one, but we'll just say that you're just following the Rolling Stone list, right? So I remember, I think Stephen Tan came to the office and say that I can't remember. It's a metal magazine, and then they listed the top 10 heavy metal albums of all time, right? And then he wanted us to guess, or just for fun, what's number one. So all of us gave our best of, right? So I think someone mentioned Metallica, Master of Puppets.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's good.
That's a good one.
I think Black Sabbath, and I said Led Zeppelin 4 and
there we go.
I was right
There we
but then Led Zeppelin 4 is an easy choice Yeah, but I think that the whole process is just for fun but it is an important point that all of us can have our own number one.
And back then, right, we had a whole community of Josephians in Big Go. Right, you mentioned Philip, you mentioned Michael Chia, right? You talk about Ko Boon Pin, Damien Sin, right? So has GI influenced this, or is it a chance happening that, right, all the Josephians came together in Big O?
I think you need to revive the ghost of Damien Sin to ask him that question. Again, it's maybe it's because it is a rather disciplined place. The brothers were strict, the teachers were strict. we were all, sexually frustrated, whatever. And we find little ways of rebel, but I think also not in a destructive way, lah, right? It's not a destructive way. I think at the end of the day, you can hear that I spoke fondly of my own teachers. I'm sure for many Josephians, they look back. I mean, they were probably punished, but they will look back and they probably appreciate, the tough love, lah, right? The tough love given to them. Yeah.
And that's actually a common theme across all the different interviews, right? How we have grown through this tough love.
Yeah.
Any fond memories that you want to share of this tough love?
I remember, I think it was Sec 4. So it's a sports day. So me and my friends say, this is boring. Let's go. So we just walk out. Let's walk out. I think we found I think they probably put teachers at different points, right? So we chose a route that maybe we could get through. And lo and behold, of course, there was a teacher there who taught us.
Was this Mr. Act 2 Scene 3?
Yeah, man.
Again, Mr. Act 2 Scene 3.
Yeah, he's everywhere in this story. I need to track him down, man.
Yes.
So he saw us and he said, what are you guys doing? I said, we're leaving. This is boring. We are quitting this scene. So he just looked at us and said, it's a school event. Where's the school pride? But if you want to leave, you leave. But I'm very disappointed. All right. So, of course, when we heard that, it's like, wow, you're actually letting us leave. We feel bad. We felt bad. But we left anyway. But I remember it.
Yes.
Right? And it's the choice that is given to us. So, in the end, maybe we make a choice that disappointed him. I mean, or maybe he was trying to, psycho us, right? Into turning back. It didn't work. So it's another lesson. Even as a teacher, you don't win all the time, okay? but in the end, it's about, I suppose, he let us make our own choices, all right? And we chose. And okay, in the end, we got away with it. There wasn't much of a consequence. But the idea is that whatever actions you take, just be prepared to bear the consequence. Right? I think that is something we all need to keep in mind. I think in social media, there are a lot of keyboard warriors and they are hiding under, fake names. And I feel that, I mean, it's okay. It's okay. You want to express your opinion, but you do it in my face, right?
No, but in retrospect,
yeah.
I think Mr. Act 2 Scene 3 has left such a deep lesson with you because even up to today, that's the first question, the first memory that triggered, right, when you talk about deep lessons for the old days. And he gave you choice. Right, the power to choose. Something so powerful is that. How about your experience in Big O? What are some of the key experiences as a writer back then?
For Big O, actually, Big O, okay, maybe a simple one is the importance of history, which is the subject that I like. I studied, I taught it. And of course, a lot of rock and roll is about, destroying the O, right? But So there's this line, I think it's this band called Plan 9, and they have this album called, to the effect that, if you want to break the rules, you need to know the rules first, right?
Okay.
So if you want to destroy history, you better know the history, that what you're destroying. So not so much that you want to destroy completely, but you want to rewrite the rules, you want to be innovative, you want to make a great album, then you should know what others have done, right? Not to say copy or anything, but you need to know what's out there to transcend it. So I think Big O, again, they have this fantastic record collection, and from borrowing and listening and making tapes out of them, and it improves my writing, improves the way I review, the way I listen to music, the way I think about music, and yeah.
But would you say that experience, that you just described, right? The music, right, the writing, right, it really shaped your worldview on how popular culture reflects society back then?
Yeah. I mean, we make all these statements about innovation and creativity, right? You need space. You need space to allow that to happen. You need to, support it, I guess. You need to remove the rules. You need to empower people. You also need to let them know about, to me, to the past as well. all right, what others have done before to improve on it. Lah.
I mean, I love this journey down memory lane because the days in Big O, if you recollect it, we kind of know a very iconic person from the time, Chris Ho. Right, you mentioned him earlier. It sounds like he's a very good friend of yours, and I'm not surprised because I mean he's really even my generation of Chris Ho. Right, so maybe you could share some memories of him. Right, was he constantly surrounded by old boys like yourself and Michael Chia, and what was the dynamics like?
Actually, for those of us who know Chris, right, actually underneath all that, he looks threatening, right? Whether it's his long hair or no hair.
I know him from his no hair days.
No hair, yeah. And of course the tattoos and the piercing and all that. Yeah, definitely punk rock, definitely, black metal at some point. But actually underneath all that, he's actually a very gentle soul, very sensitive. All right, if you talk to him, you makan with him, he's more than willing to share, and he's very passionate. At some points also emotional because things get to him. All right. So I think that's one aspect of Chris that most people don't know. I mean, of course, he has a great voice, right? You hear him on the radio, he does voiceovers. But I think beneath all that, he's actually very private. But once you get to know him, he's a very generous person.
So how do you think the SGI alternative spirit, right, matched with Chris Ho's own sense of energy to shape the Singaporean indie scene back then?
Okay, I think, I mean, I briefly described the school. So again, maybe all schools have elements of this sort of contradictions, right?
Yep.
Order and some sort of chaos, very strict rules, and then DIY. And I think Chris is also a man of contradictions, right? I think it's no secret, he's gay, all right? But I think even in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, right? I think even rock and roll can be very conformist, right? I think even within rock and roll, there's a certain attitude, a certain view about gender, a certain view of how you can behave, all right? And of course, you can label it as masculinity, right? And maybe it's not so positive, all right? So I think all that contradictions, he embodied, right? I mean, you love something, you love the music, you love the genre, but some elements of it clashes with what you are. So I know in fact, I can't answer this question at all. If you're trying to sum up a human being, I won't even bother. But it's to say that I think, many of us owe him a great debt from his 8 Miles High on Rediffusion, his Pop Life column in the Straits Times. And again, that's very important. He didn't just write for Big O. Big O is alternative, but he wrote for the mainstream press. So he tried his best to spread ideas within the confines of the mainstream press. And to the Straits Times credit, they gave him that space for many, many years.
And I must say, we should really celebrate that Chris Ho truly kept true to himself. There was no pretense. He wrote from his heart, and it was just him. Right. And looking at your journey, right, you transcend from the Big O magazine to becoming the country editor of the International Journal of Comic Art. How did that happen?
Okay, let me say, when I wrote for Big O, it was for free. Now, as the so-called country editor of International Comic, it's also a free thing, right? It's an academic journal. We are into comic scholarship, and I say, okay, I can be the editor to send you updates and news, right? But I suppose it's just an easy credentials for me to use when I meet comics people, I suppose. But it doesn't pay the rent, okay? So I suppose there's a story to this, which is, I'm just a ordinary Joe, right? So I did well enough for O levels, A levels, go to NUS, and back then only got NUS and NTU, right? And I'm a completely arts, humans person. I can't do science, I can't do engineering, so there's no way I could have gone NTI, right? It's not even NTU back then. So if I had failed my O level, I didn't do as well, I think I'll probably just go and work. My father will say, hey, I cannot send you overseas, right? So I made it to the university. I did history. I did well enough to do honors the 4th year. So you need to choose a topic, right? Original research dissertation or thesis. So I always know that I want to do on local culture, because and there's no way I can write or research about American Civil War better than Americans. The archives are in America. They have it's part of their blood, right? This is not in my blood. So I figured, okay, let's try to figure out, So I could have written about music, movies, or comics, and I chose comics and cartoons. So to cut a long story short, I end up knowing that group of people or that crowd, and so International Journal of Comic Art.
Well, yes, I can tell. I mean, your writing spans from 9-year diplomacy in 2017 to the 2023 book, The Drawn of Satire, and most recently, your 2024 Be Below Asia, right, piece on your pioneer cartoonists. So looking at all three, right, and the rest of your writings you've done, what's that little thread that weaves all this together? Are you trying to tell us more about the Singapore identity through these comics?
Okay, maybe just to describe the three things you described. So Guidebook to Nanyang Diplomacy is a comic book which I wrote. Drawn to Satire is also a comic book I wrote. I can't draw for nuts, so I work with artists, friends of mine. And then the article for Biblio Asia is about the writing process or the research process for Drawn to Satire. So what ties these three together is history, right? Because for Guidebook to Nanyang Diplomacy, I just want to fight. I just want to write a fighting manga, right? It's for fun, but the background is a 1915 Sepoy mutiny in Singapore. So of course, most all of us know about World War II, right? Japanese occupation and Singapore played a big part in that, right? Four of the the British Empire in this part of the world, right? They didn't quite recover after that. But Singapore doesn't seem much of a story in World War I, but that's not true because in 1950, all right, there was a Sepoy mutiny where a group of Indian soldiers, they're from Sepoy, all right, that's why they're called from Sepoy regiment, all right, and they heard that they're Muslims and they heard that they might be sent to Turkey to fight, which means there'll be Muslim versus Muslim. They were not happy about it, and of course there was some, I think, conspiracy from the German side. So they rebel, all right. So that's the actual history, actual fact, which little known. So I decided to weave a sort of a fighting story within it. Yeah. Of course, it's like fantasy, right? There are superheroes and people with power, but that's the background. So history and Drawn to Satire is basically based on my research on Singapore cartoonists, and so I decided I've written articles about them, and of course, no one reads academic articles, right, in all these journals. So I decided to do a book, write a story, and then I think some of these cartoonists are pioneers, and they should be remembered or celebrated. Yeah.
So it's really about using the cartoons to express, right, the lesser known stories of Singapore.
Yeah.
Back then. And you've been a constant fixture at all the recent art festivals, symposiums, not just in Singapore but across the regions. So tell us more about your current mission. Why is it so vital now to champion the Singapore and sometimes some of the say Malaysia art scenes or comic scenes for yourself?
My focus is always local and regional, right? So I always feel that I mean, of course, we are all drawn to pop culture, so whereas American pop culture or Europe and recent times, East Asia, J-pop, K-pop, even China, but I always say that what happens in Jakarta is actually more important than what happens, I don't know, in London. But London is so important, Washington is so important, but if Jakarta sneeze, you better sit up.
Yep.
If KL sneeze, you better sit up, right? These are our immediate neighbors. And I think people tend to think that the best positions, right, let's say I'm working in the foreign affairs office, if I get to send to the US, of course it's great, right? Or send to the UK. But actually, if they send you to Jakarta, that means you are kilat, you're damn solid, right?
Yes.
You're on the way up, right? Because those are very important positions and posts. So I'll tell friends, tell students that actually Indonesia is more than Bali. And Thailand is more than Bangkok or Pattaya, right? I mean, there's so many places, and actually, whatever happens there affect us. All right. And yeah, lah, of course, we hit above our belt. We are movers and shakers, but we are still part of this region. And I think understanding, respect is needed. So of course, I'm not in foreign affairs. I just love music, but I feel that I should know more about my neighbors. So I extend it to the music. So I check out the scene there, whether it's in Indonesia or Philippines or Thailand. Actually, they have great bands there lah, and great comic artists as well.
So it's really about just Singapore being home and just being your love for Singapore, right? And just being care concerned about where Singapore is and the much greater scene around us. So we talk about a couple of things, right? We talk about the K culture, the J culture, Japan culture. How about the S culture, the Singapore pop culture? How have you seen it evolve over the years?
No, I think we are not short of talent, but I suppose it's always a market thing, right? I mean, it's geopolitics, right? I mean, it's a fantasy to think that we can transport Singapore to another place, right? No such machine exists, right? We are still here and we are still surrounded, right? You can't really expand and all that. So I think like every weekend now, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, there's always a punk, hardcore, metal, indie pop gig, shoegaze gig happening. It's really that vibrant, especially after COVID. I think that there's something got to do with that. People just, come out and do things. All right, I'm just using music example. And then, but just like in the 80s, 90s, where we have acts like Stephanie Sun, JJ Lin. I think that we all have to expand. Right? I mean, there's nothing wrong if you just want to play within the confines of Singapore. You just want to be a weekend band, you want to enjoy hanging out, improve your craft, that's good. But I think at the end of the day, you want to go beyond. Our market is a bit too small.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, but looking at the cultures of your days, right? So back then, rock and roll was international rock and roll, right? It was a major influence, right, amongst the Josephians back then. And right now, looking at our current generations, we can see that there's a change, right? Do you then think that this change in landscape today, with local pop culture being quite a strong influence, given our talents that have emerged over the years, how do you think it's affecting our Josephians of this current generation?
It's quite hard to answer that because sometimes I'm not even sure what the kids are into these days. Of course, they're into Taylor Swift or Lady Gaga or Billie Eilish, right? I mean, I'm just or Blackpink, right? Things like that.
But it's very relevant to what you said earlier, because earlier you had a point of view that says that Big O help us focus, conceptualize and focus. And today, the generation is really all about diversity, and it's all over the place, right? So that itself is a very big difference. But I want to hear your opinion as well.
I think there are pros and cons to that, right? So it's a bit more fragmented, and maybe we are all in silos, some sort of echo chamber, all right? And sometimes we do need a big pop star, just again referencing back to music, like Blackpink, like I know Lisa seems very popular, or Taylor Swift, all right? It's an industry to sort of garner and rally some of these pop fans. I think we don't really have enough of that. Again, I wouldn't say that is a terrible thing because I think it's good that we have diversity of genres, that you like something that I don't, and then we can share. But I think then that common experience, I suppose, is missing.
So we are actually leaving the big old culture as a nation today. Having our own independent thought, entitled to know what's our number one music, allowing us to love the musicians that we love today. Very much similar to what you shared, how Big O actually was that source of diversity you talked about.
Actually, I mean, if Big O is still around today, I'm also not sure how long will it last. All right, I mean, print is more or less dead. Everything's on the internet. I mean, I read Pitchfork from time to time, but I'm sure not many people read Pitchfork, and it's probably a bit old. Probably people just watch YouTube videos, TikTok, and influencers. So I'm sort of divided about this. On one hand, maybe it's nostalgia talking that we need something like Big O, but maybe something like this has has come and gone.
No, but I mean, nostalgia is good because it really leads on to my next question, right? So I felt a little bit silly sometimes to ask a historian like yourself, right? How do you want to look towards the future, right? Because I mean, history is such a huge anchor in your life, right? But as a historian, if you have to archive just one piece of Singapore's pop culture, right, to represent the spirit of our nation and future generations, what would that be and why?
Is when Zikao Lounge played.
Okay.
I think it's the SGI field. I think it is the SGI field. The police concert. All right, it's organized by SPF, by the
Oh,
police.
wow, really?
And they got all these local rock bands to play.
Nice.
I think it's just the SGI field, right? So there's an SGI connection there.
Yeah.
But it's also this mixture of, you have the mainstream, you have the underground, and it comes together, lah, right? And maybe the demarcation will never always be that clear, lah, right? Or maybe it's all about biting the hands that fits you, lah.
Oh, that's beautiful. And what's your message to the new ordinary Joes out there, right, who feels that they don't fit the mold of being a doctor, lawyer, engineer, right, and want to pursue a life in the arts or alternative media?
Okay, so Sonic Youth has this album called, I think it's called Kill Your Idols. And in some ways, I thought about it. I think we all need to kill our idols, or in some ways, killing our fathers. All right? Or killing a father figure. Now, of course, killing doesn't mean literally killing, right? But the idea is that you need to let them go. You need to transcend them. And that goes back to my own philosophy about teaching, right? Because it cannot be a case where my own students doesn't surpass me. All right, or I put them down, or like those Chinese kung fu show, because I'm scared the student will come and kill me. I got 10 strokes, I only teach 8, and the 8 becomes 4, 4 becomes 2, then becomes 0, right?
Yes.
And that's the decline of society.
I always say that Chinese senseis in Kung Fu world don't know how to count.
So to have improvement in society, yeah, every generation should improve should surpass the other, and that's what I think. And that's what I think we should all do, and that's my message to the young ones out there. You guys are all right. The kids are all right. Yeah.
You'll find a way.
Yeah.
They'll find a way.
Of course. No. So the idea here is that, you see, again, the idea of teaching and learning, right? I will solve today's problems or this generation's problems, but you should solve tomorrow's problems. If I keep solving problems for you, tomorrow's problems, you'll just slack, right? You just 躺平, right? And maybe you work less as hard. I mean, I don't know, I'm generalizing here, but yeah, so I will equip you, whatever that is, that for that tomorrow, and then you solve it, and my job is done, and how you solve it, I don't care, because I'm sure you should be more innovative than me. All right? Yeah. So I think
how
that's
the
how
student surpasses the master.
Yeah. It has to be. Or else there's no progress in society.
Yes.
And it's just yeah.
No, I think that's a fantastic way to really remember this episode. But before we end, I'm going to do something very special. Right. So as a little signature on our No Ordinary Joe, this is going to be a rapid fire round. So I don't want you to overthink it. Let loose, take rock and roll. Just leave for the moment. Ask you a couple of questions, just give your answers, right? So let's start, right? Bras Basah or Malcolm Road?
Secondhand bookshops.
If the old school canteen, what was the one dish that you couldn't live without?
Char kway teow.
If you could go back to 1988 for one day, which SGI classroom would you sit in?
Actually, I'll be in the recess. I'll be in the canteen. I don't want to sit in the classroom.
Best answer. Physical comics or digital tablets?
Physical comics.
And the greatest Singapore cartoon character of all time is?
Captain V.
Who's Captain V? Okay, we'll Google that. Marvel or DC?
DC lah.
Oh, this is an interesting one. Red pen or blue pen?
Red.
Very good. The one book every Josephian should read before they graduate.
No, I better don't say it. It's things that we'll buy along the second bookshops at Bras Basah.
There we go. You have to meet up with CT Lim to actually ask that. The one book, okay, let's go with cassette tapes or vinyl records.
Vinyls.
Complete the sentence. Your other side can be found.
In a comic book.
An ordinary Joe is someone who.
Can do anything if he puts his mind to it.
Live for the moment and be passionate about what you do. All right, that marks the end of our fire round, but we always have this very special activity we do for every episode. So it's a little challenge that we'd like to issue to our listeners, something that everyone can attempt while embodying the Josephine spirit Ora Labora. So what would your challenge be to our listeners this week?
Well, be kind, be compassionate, be generous, to share, to buy someone a meal, something simple lah. So like recently, I went all the way to Bukit Merah Central because I have char kway teow craving. I mentioned char kway teow just now, right?
Yes.
the extra char kway teow where I think 80 cents without egg, then $1 got egg, something like that. So day and night char kway teow in Bukit Merah Central. It's quite famous. If you Google it, always got long queue. But what's interesting is that they have a system where you can actually buy someone a meal. So let's say it's a $5 per plate, right? You just like say, okay, I'll pay $10, all right, to buy someone else a meal. So they have a sticker system or a marker system. You just draw a circle, and the next person behind you or later in the day who needs a free meal can just cross it off lah. So yeah, just do something simple like that. Yeah.
Wow, thank you, CT. That's very inspirational. That's really about living our motto of also being meant for others. So thank you so much for that reminder.
Char kway teow.
Char kway teow. The magic of char kway teow, paying it forward. What an incredible journey we've taken today. From the fanzines of Bras Pasar to the academic halls of SGI and the pages of Big O. CT, you have shown us that being an ordinary Joe isn't just about following the script. It's about writing your own. Thank you for reminding us that history isn't just about the big events. It's about the cartoons, the music, and alternative voices that make us who we are. To our listeners and viewers, thank you for joining us for another episode of No Ordinary Joe. Next time on the show, we welcome an old Joe who battled alongside Singapore football icons Fandi Ahmad and Malik Awak. If CT's challenge spoke to you, give it a go. If his story sparked something, share it. Whether you're from the class of 88, 96, or even 2025, stay curious and keep it indie. After all, an ordinary Joe can lead a life less ordinary. I'm Jason Chen, and this is No Ordinary Joe.